Greetings, Channel 63 viewers. This is Bob Langer bringing you a very special segment. This is a public service being brought to you by Sheriff Bradshaw's office in conjunction with Channel 63. We are going to speak with Detective Adam Fox of the Frauds Unit. Detective, welcome to Channel 63.
Thank you.
Detective Fox, I know you've had over 15 years experience in this field. Would you please tell our viewers what's been happening recently, how things have changed, and what should residents be looking out for themselves regarding these scam artists, which have taken on a whole new aura of theft and fraud?
Well, what we see a lot of the same scams. They reincarnate. They may change a little bit, but the scams, at least in the time I've been in the financial crimes unit, have pretty much remained the same over time. You have your phishing scams, which are emails trying to solicit information. The emails may look like they're from your bank or from a federal law enforcement agency. You will have your phone scams, which aren't as popular anymore as they used to be. But again, too, it's to try and solicit your personal information. You have scams through Craigslist, which is a pretty popular outlet, where you'll get job advertisements and people are tricked into thinking that they're actually working a job when in reality they're actually facilitating a crime, but they don't know. We investigate a lot of those. You have your, what we call the grandparent scam, where someone may call and say that they're a representative of a law enforcement agency outside the country, or that they are your or someone's child and say, you know, I'm on vacation in Costa Rica and I'm in jail, can you wire X amount of dollars? You also have scams, which you can see even in a gated community such as yours, where someone comes in disguised as repairmen, and they may go to a residence and say, hey, our HOA sent us over here, your HOA sent you over, we need to inspect your AC unit, and if it seems legit, people won't check there with their HOA. Someone goes in, they maybe distract you while the other person's in the back pretending to examine a mechanical issue at the house, when in actuality they're taking your jewelry or they're taking your financial records, and those types of things.
How often do you find these gated community scams?
They come and go. Since we primarily deal with the county, it seems to happen quite frequently in the more elderly, like the Kings Point areas and Century Village, where you see a lot of those. And of course, that generation is very trusting. So if someone shows up in an official looking uniform or something and says, I'm here to inspect your oven, or we need to change your air filters, you know, someone's not going to question it. So the news usually is pretty good at covering it, so you can see how it's cyclical. It'll come, it gets a lot of news coverage, the criminal will turn to something else. It calms down, they'll go back to that. So, and that's how it is with any scam. Once it's on the forefront, criminals will turn to something else that's not as noticeable at that time.
Tell us a little bit about the scams concerning senior citizens and health care, people coming in to take care of them for a day or a week.
My division, we exclusively do all the what we call elderly exploitation involving finances. And what we see a lot in my unit is you will have an elderly person who has a caretaker, and sometimes they develop a very strong relationship because that's the caretaker and the children may be somewhere else in the country. And that relationship develops, and then the caretaker will take advantage of that and say, listen, you know, my car broke down. Can you give me $3,000? I'll pay you back. And they give it. And they never do pay him back, obviously. Mm-hmm. You have caretakers that go in and their whole mission is to get in there and to scam. And they may just steal jewelry or something. And, you know, when the victim says, oh, you know, where's my diamond ring, or I have credit cards there, you know, oh, well, you're forgetful. You know, you're suffering from Alzheimer's or something, and they'll put it back on the victim, when in reality the victim knows what they're talking about. But we do see a lot of more of the, what we call confidence, where the caretaker and the victim, they bond, and sometimes that elderly person, that's the only companionship they have. So they're worried, well, if this caretaker leaves, I'm going to be by myself. My children are elsewhere in the country, and this is all I have, so I want to help her or him, so I'm going to give them that money to get their car fixed, or they claim they have a child in jail or whatever, and really all they're doing is taking the money and pocketing it.
Are these caretakers bonded?
Some are through agencies, and those agencies will make them sign agreements that they're not supposed to take money, but it doesn't stop them.
Right.
A lot of caretakers we find are word of mouth. You have these, again, you have these large retirement communities, and if someone says, oh, this woman is very good, and it's word of mouth, and they really aren't bonded or protected as far as their insurance. So if you're victimized and you have someone that's not through an agency, you're out of luck.
How could the elderly protect themselves against something like this? Or does the crime have to occur first before any action is taken?
Well,
is there any way of protecting oneself against this?
We always refer to it as doing your due diligence.
Right.
Do your research. If you need a caretaker, or you're a family member who's getting a caretaker for your parents or a sibling, you want to go through an agency that's well known. You want to ask around, ask your physicians, who would you recommend? Contact social agencies. 211 is a great resource in Palm Beach County. There's actually an agency on elder and aging in Palm Beach County, and they will point you in the right directions for those agencies that are highly recommended, that are used, that have a good reputation, that don't have these issues. The criminal element can exist anywhere, but you can lessen it by doing your research and trying to find out, what's a good agency, a good reputation. Do they have a record of employees that have stolen, or do they have good records? You can check the Better Business Bureau website. There's a lot of different things you can check with the access of the internet now before you make that decision and go in blindly.
With regard to emails or internet fraud, phone scams, could you elucidate a little bit, amplify exactly what occurs?
Sure. Email scams, we call them phishing, which is PHIS. I don't know why it's come up with that, but
Right.
and basically what it is, they're throwing a line out there and they're trying to see. And you might have these internet cafes across the country, and they're going to blast out 2, 3, 4 million emails. And if they get 4 or 5 responses and they get that money, well, it was a profitable day for them.
What do they say? What,
It could be any number of things.
charity?
Charity. After the earthquake hit Haiti a number of years ago,
Oh, sure.
my email box started getting overloaded with, the bank has found this money in your name, but you need to do this in order to get your money, or they'll use religious connotations to try and tug at your heartstrings, or children. And then on the flip side, you've got the lotteries. You want a foreign lottery from London or Africa. And my biggest thing when I do talks about this is, have you been there and have you entered a lottery there? If you haven't, I think it should be clear it's not legit. And then you also have too, which I get as well as anyone does, you get emails that look like they're from Bank of America or whatever. Mm-hmm. Your account, we need to verify your account number or whatever. You know who you bank with, and if you think that there's an issue with your account, call them directly, but don't answer an email and give your account or social security number, date of birth, because that's the golden goose for identity thefts. And then on phone scams, we don't see phone scams as much as we used to, but it's the same type of thing. Call up and someone might pose as a benevolent association of police officers. We're trying to get vests for our police officers. Can you send us a check? Or
I was going to ask about that,
Yeah.
but I found that a little sensitive. But I'm glad you brought it up. I get phone calls.
Yes.
Most of the people here get them. We represent PBA. When I say, look, I'd like to make a donation, but I'd like to send it to the police department, they say, we are not the police. And that's the turnoff.
Right.
Well, what does somebody do about that? How does someone judge whether or not it's legitimate or not when someone wants to help the police association?
the sheriff's office, and I can only speak for the sheriff's
Right.
office, we have a sheriff's office foundation where people can make donations if they wish. Mm-hmm. We don't solicit, our union does not solicit, and I get those calls too, hey, I represent such and such in the State Troopers Association. Well, being in law enforcement, I know every agency in the state,
Right.
they're handed vests, they're given the equipment that they need. So if people want to make donations, contact that department or that union or that agency and say, how would I go about donating money for your agency? And I know we've got a foundation set up at the sheriff's office that you can do that.
Tell us a little bit about Craigslist and the types of fraud taking place there.
I'll be the first to say I don't like Craigslist.
Okay, tell us why. Why not?
There's no protection for the consumer. And I don't endorse anything, but I use eBay. I like eBay. eBay has a very good fraud protection program. Craigslist, what we see a lot is we will see, work at home scam. And what they'll do is they might send we need you to go and do a secret shopper for Western Union. And then what they'll do is, here's a check for $1,000. Go to Western Union, wire $900 and keep $100 for yourself. Well, the check's counterfeit. So the person doing it now looks like a suspect, when in reality we have to go out, interview them, and find out that they're not. And then the person on the other end of the wire will get their cash before it's discovered that it's fake. Other things you have with Craigslist is if you were to sell, I recently put my hot tub up for sale.
Right.
And someone from Canada said, hey, listen, I'll send someone down, I'll pick it up. I know you're asking X amount, I'm going to give you Y. You keep your amount and then send me the rest back. Well, the check is counterfeit. So they're going to get their money, and then by the time I realize that it is, my profit's gone,
late.
I've lost my hot tub,
Right.
and they've got their money. So, and Craigslist, I'm just very cautious with Craigslist because there's really not a whole lot of protection for the consumer if you're scammed.
Are most of these scam artists professionals, or are they copyists?
Some are professionals, some are opportunists.
Opportunists.
They see an opportunity, or they read something on the news and, oh, maybe I could do that and put my own little twist to it, and then, sometimes they win, sometimes they don't.
Do you get involved with complaints from consumers who go into an antique shop or a consignment shop and they're told that what they're buying is something signed by Picasso or somebody, or a baseball signed by Babe Ruth, which is not, and they take it home and they find out it's a phony? You get involved in things of that nature?
My division does not. We only deal with financial crimes. We do have property crimes units which deal with property. They may look into that. I know they do some work with counterfeit items, but it's not anything I think that we look at extensively. I know we don't in my division. Mm-hmm. Another division of the Sheriff's Office may, but I'm not aware.
I know, for the benefit of our viewers, if you viewers buy something in an antique or consignment shop, I know that there is a law in Florida which states that when you get it home and you show it to somebody and it's not what it is, that's misrepresentation and it's fraud. And you can bring it back and get your money back, or you can make charges against them with the sheriff's office. Make sure that whatever you buy, if it's important enough, you get it in writing with the handwriting of the individual selling you the item. Detective Fox, it was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Really, this is a public service. We thank the Office of Sheriff Bradshaw. We thank David Groover, Sergeant David Groover, mm-hmm. and yourself. And we welcome the opportunity perhaps of seeing you back here in BallenIsles, either on another segment or making a presentation to our community on how to protect themselves against consumer fraud.
Anytime.
Thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate that very much.
Thank you.